Follow us on Twitter at 90s Percentile. And if you'd like more content from We Studios, check us out at weepodcast.com, WEE podcast.com, where you can find our Simpsons podcast, Worst Episode Ever, and our movie commentary series, Sync Points.
And if you want to support the show, you can help us out by clicking our Amazon links. That's at weepodcast.com. You click the links and shop like you normally would, and we get a small percentage.
Thanks, guys. 60 minutes are on the clock, and straight out of We Studios, this is 90s Percentile. My name is Jack.
And my name is Dan, and we're talking everything 90s and maybe also everything before and after.
That's right. Today we have no guests. It's just the Jack and Dan show for the next 59 minutes.
Just the two of us, Jack. We can make it if we try, and we will for the next 59 whatever minutes.
All right. So what's our first topic?
Our first topic today is giant super soakers, and comes to us from Jeff. I believe it's friend of the show, Jeff, in fact.
Wow. Thanks, Jeff.
It was spelled with a Geoff.
Giant was spelled with a GE?
Yep, giant was spelled Geoffant. No, I think it's friend of the show, Jeff. Unless there's another Geoffrey who listens to this show.
There very well could be. I know our numbers are low, but there could be two Jeffreys. Giant super soakers, not even the smaller ones. So where do we draw the line? So super soakers...
I don't know. I mean, was there a specific brand of giant super soakers, like cannon-sized super soakers?
Not cannon-sized.
I'm thinking Cable from the X-Force cartoons.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Super soakers, they're water pistols, water guns.
Yes.
From the 90s. They kind of changed the game for water guns. I think before then, basically it was pull the trigger and there was air.
You'd have the lame, like a little pistol thing that shot a little squirt of water.
Yeah, by adding this pump system.
They added the pump system, which if you didn't have a super soaker, you probably had a super soaker if you're listening to this. It was much more stylized, I guess. They were like neon colors when they first came out, and you would fill up a whole, I guess like a basin or something of water. Like you'd fill up a
bottle. A tube.
I guess bottle makes more sense than a basin, but you fill up a bottle of water.
Hey, Mom, I want that new water basin.
You don't get a basin until you finish your schoolwork.
Oh, Mom.
They fill up the water basin. I keep saying basin, and I mean to say bottle. Fill that up, and you put it on the gun, and like Jack said, you would pump it, so you'd get water pressure in the actual gun, so you could shoot a stream. It wasn't just that kind of crappy dollar store gun where you just squirt it and the pressure from the trigger is what fires the water out. You're dealing with real power in the super soaker.
There's lots of semen related metaphors I kind of want to make, but I won't.
Know it.
So let's get into the real, before we get into it, let's get into the history of super soaker, because I just looked up on our big screen here.
Yep.
First of all, I forgot or didn't know that it was Nerf. Makes perfect sense. I mean, I guess because it's not soft.
It wasn't Nerf originally. Apparently Nerf has now acquired it.
Okay,
but it was
right.
Laramie. I remember from Laramie Toys.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember it written on there. So it was actually invented in the 80s. In 1982, the late 80s.
Oh, if it was in the 80s, let's get to the next topic. This is unbelievable.
So it was in the late 80s, 1982. The prototype makes sense. It was a PVC pipe.
And an acrylic glass,
empty
plastic soda bottle. So that makes sense because they were soda bottle-y shaped.
Yeah, they were not basin shaped. Oh, it was originally called the Power Drencher. Again, kind of want to make a semen reference.
Okay.
But,
well, Power Drencher is not a bad name, but I think Super Soaker is pretty clearly the better name, right?
Yes, Super Soaker. It's alliteration.
Super Soaker is more of a pee-pee joke. Ready in the making. You never heard of the pee-pee joke?
I never considered a pee-pee joke, no. Power Drencher, I feel like, could be a pee-pee joke.
It could be. You could power drench somebody. I've seen those videos on the internet of people getting power drenched.
So anyway, once it says here it came out officially in 91, rebranded as Super Soaker. I think for me it felt like it was a couple years later than that. But once they came, they took over. Basically, you didn't want a water gun unless it was
it was a super soaker.
So they were the original first wave or so. They were depicted in numbers, and I remember the original was the 10, the 50, and the 100.
I think it was the 50, the 150, and the 250.
No, that's like second wave.
No, I think that was how. I thought that was the Super Soaker 50 was the first one.
The 50 was like the default one. It was the
50, the 100, and the 150.
All right. So the 50 was the yellow and green one. Yellow gun, green basin.
Yeah, which has its own Wikipedia page.
And
for some
reason. It was handgun size, but it was a little bit bigger than a handgun. It was almost like a little bit bigger than Han Solo's blaster.
No, it was bigger than that.
A little bigger, I said.
No, it was much bigger than Han Solo. It was like an assault rifle almost.
It was meant for. I feel like it was. I guess if you're a kid, you
Like
might
it
want
was
to hold it with two.
a one-hander.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a
But,
one-hander.
well, you take the other hand for the pump. It was kind of like a tiny shotgun type situation.
Okay, I could see that. It's more handgun shaped compared to the 100, which is the one I had.
Okay.
That was a blue and white one that was definitely more rifle shaped.
Okay.
It was that was more of a two-hander.
I know I had 3 Super Soakers in my life between my brother and I. We had 2 of the yellow and green. I actually think it might have been the Super Soaker 150. I don't remember.
I don't remember a 150.
It was fair. It was like this is not good for an audio podcast, but Jack, it was about this big, like from here to here.
Okay. That's very.
yeah.
You did a great job depicting the size
I know,
visually.
right? Good podcasting happening right now. But they were. Here's the question I want to ask you. You said it changed the game for like water guns, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like in the commercials for the Super Soaker, they had a lot of like epic neighborhood water fight brawls happening.
Yeah.
Did you ever actually do those?
Yes.
Okay, because I feel like I very infrequently did.
They weren't epic, but there were times where the kids on my street would all take out their guns, and there weren't many. I would say maybe 3 or 4, but just that kind of was much better than me playing by myself and shooting the fence.
It's a summer day,
yeah,
and all of a sudden one kid is like, "I'm gonna fucking spray Jack in the face."
I remember at one point we had I had a birthday party, and we all got carried away, and we were soaked, and we had water balloons involved, and the Super Soakers. And my grandma came late to wish me a happy birthday.
Yeah,
and she was probably 80 or something at the time. Let's see, she just turned 99. This was 80 or something at the time. I don't know.
99. We can almost not talk about her in this podcast.
Probably a little bit younger than that. But she was so mad. She yelled at me. She's like, "You're gonna catch a cold." And it's just like, yeah.
In the middle of summer?
In the middle of my June birthday party.
All right. Well,
but
was she right? Did you catch a cold, Jack?
I died.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
So you're a zombie or a ghost situation happening here?
Both.
A zombost. Okay. Interesting.
Have been since my I want to say 10th birthday party.
So this is before I was even friends with you.
I remember there was a kid, I hated him, but he was really popular, so I invited him, and he came, and he took my baseball bat and started smashing all the balloons while yelling, "Oprah's on! Get with the program," which was a commercial for Oprah
I
at the time.
remember the commercial, yeah.
Yeah, it was, she was on at 4 p.m., and they go, "Oprah's on! Get with the program." And he's just yelling that while smashing all my balloons.
So I'm sorry, I have to pause here for one moment. You said this person you didn't like this person, but he was popular, so you had to invite him to your birthday party. Yeah. Why was he so popular when he seemed to love Oprah and love smashing things with a baseball bat?
He was a cool kid. I don't know.
Cool kids are always smashing things with baseball bats.
He was the definitive cool kid. He was the Zach Morris. I remember there was even a conversation once where we were at the lunch table and he was talking to the popular girl, who everybody liked. Yeah. And they were like, "Yeah, you're Zach and you're Kelly." And then everybody goes, "Jack Screech." And I was just like, no.
Classic Screech. Because Screech was also a zombie ghost.
My name's Jack. I should be Zach. Just
True.
Because I have big curly hair and I'm very underweight and I'm a nerd.
Yeah, right.
I built my own robot with advanced AI. I don't see why I should be the Screech.
No, definitely not. I still don't understand why this popular kid was just smashing things and singing Oprah songs and remained the most popular kid in the school, a Zach Morris level. But anyway, we'll move on and go talk about Super Soakers again.
Okay, so this website has different information because this is what I remember.
We're now on iSoaker.com.
This is what I remember.
Okay.
Water Blaster models released in 1991. The 30, the 50, and the 100. That's the original trilogy I remember because the 150 is an XP. Model. It's like an extra model. That's why I remember being like an advanced wave, like a wave 2 or wave 3, the 150 and the 250.
Right. I guess I had the Super Soaker 50. I guess it was 2 of the 50.
Yeah, because a year later the 200 came out, and that was like that was a big game changer. And that's the only. Yeah. So you said you owned 3.
Right. I had 2 of the, I guess, Super Soaker 100 or 50, whatever the green and yellow one was.
That was like, I would say that's the definitive
Super Soaker. Yeah, the iconic one that you think of. And then I also, I guess it came out later, I had an XP 75.
Okay, yeah.
Which was
the XP was definitely like the next.
That was like, you could, I think the original ones, you couldn't spray and pump at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And I think the XPs you could.
They cracked it.
You could pump away and just be spraying and playing.
The brains at Laramie cracked the code.
Like, we got to figure out this
that
spray and pump
been
technology.
Such a fun place to like work and test those things out.
I'm sure.
No, Well, what I was going to say is, so you said those were the ones you owned. I only owned two in my life. I owned the 100, and then I owned the 200. And the 200 was the next wave. Like I said, it came out a year or so. According to this, it came out in 92, along with the 20, the 25, and the 40.
Right.
But the 200 was the first one to have double barrel. So it looked,
Yes,
and it
I
actually
did not
had,
have
three,
that
it had
one.
three, let's call them basins. It had three basins. It had a double green one, which I think were maybe not quite as big as the 100. The 100 had one big fat barrel, and then I
Right.
think maybe a secondary smaller barrel. This had two medium to heavy sized green barrels, and then third
another
on the back.
one. Yeah.
And that,
I remember that.
was really cool, and that was like, it was orange and green, and maybe yellow on the back, and that was like that. Once I had that, that made me like alpha kid on the street.
Yeah, that's
I was
pretty
like, Who
awesome.
screeched now?
That's your Cable from X-Force. If you have that, you got a giant gun.
And
That's
then,
pretty awesome.
and then I remember the XPs coming out after this, which according to this, they came out 2 years later. They came out in 94.
Right.
But in between that, the Super Soaker 300 came out in 93. And I remember my best friend at the time came out with that one. He had to one-up me when
Of course.
he had the 100, then I got the 200, then he had to get the 300. 300 was the one that had the jetpack that you wore. You wore a tank of water on your back. I guess jetpack.
I don't remember a functional
It's
jetpack
not a
being part of the
jetpack. I
Super
guess it'd be
Soaker.
more like a oxygen tank. Like if you're a scuba diver, it's like having an oxygen tank on your back.
Right,
So this
yeah.
was it was a big long rifle with a hose or a tube that connected to the back. So you were carrying whatever it was, 5, 10, 15
So
gallons.
it's almost like a flamethrower.
Yeah,
like,
exactly,
with
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when my friend had that, it was just like it just made the 200 look like shit.
I wonder if anyone ever got that and had their friend use a flamethrower and they're spraying water while they're spraying fire and just like see which element is the strongest.
That makes sense. I'm not sure if flamethrowers were very popular with parents.
Oh, I had a lot of flamethrowers as a child. That's why my house burned down so many times.
I can just imagine you like going over an anthill instead of like I got a magnifying glass and you're like, oh yeah.
The ants will never forget this day.
Now I don't know if this guy who invented the gun with the PVC type in the soda,
John Super Soaker.
John Super Soaker. I don't know if he meant this at the time, but it is a really brilliant marketing idea to have these numeric iterations, especially to start them low with 50 and 100.
Right.
Because, like I said, it makes it so easy to one up your friend.
It really
doesn't
does,
even matter.
yeah.
Like the backpack, jetpack, water tank was really cool, but even the iterations aren't necessary as long as the number was higher, and
Right.
then ideally also a bigger tank, a bigger basin.
So the tank didn't matter as much as it being like the Super Soaker
The
300.
next number, yeah,
They're
exactly.
Like, oh, you only have a 200, like a little baby. I have a 300,
Exactly,
like a goddamn
and
man.
now you have to one up. Now you have
Yeah.
to buy the bigger, better thing. It also just makes sense if you're doing different models of water guns, which is fun if you're doing like an epic street battle. It is
Oh,
fun
sure.
to have those options. But
wouldn't know. I never had one.
feel like they were more that they weren't that. I feel like I'm being more cynical. I think that wasn't why they were doing the numbers. I think they were doing it because to make more money.
I'm
make
sure
you want it.
I'm sure it was to make more money and make you want it. I mean, the whole thing was kind of how do we make assault weapons sellable to children? Let's call them Super Soakers, and because they certainly did take a lot from like actual weaponry. I remember there were Super Soaker grenades at one point.
Really?
I'm pretty
How does
sure.
that work?
Maybe they were different. I think it was just you filled it with water and you'd throw it, and it would just like there was I don't know. Maybe it was battery operated or something, but something just sprayed the water
like
out.
a sprinkler, basically, like a
Kind of,
portable
yeah.
sprinkler. I mean,
When you threw
I
it-
feel like it would be better for them to just make water balloons, especially because then you'd have to keep buying them.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, especially if they want to make all the money in the world, which Super Soaker did.
I like how maybe I don't know if sales had dipped. I doubt it, but maybe they just ran out of like the bigger numbers weren't working.
Yeah.
So in '93, in addition to the Super Soaker 300, you also had the Canon. The Power Soaker Mighty Soaker, the Power Soaker Mini Mighty Soaker, the Power Soaker Triple Threat.
Oh,
I think
man.
that's where it shoots 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen at you.
Oh, wow. That's at the same time? That's crazy.
And the Power Soaker with backpack. Maybe I'm getting that mixed up with the 300.
Could be.
And the Super Soaker MDS, which if kids love anything, it's acronyms.
Oh, yeah. The MDS, of course, stands for Multi-Directional Soaker.
Is that true?
That's a technical term, the MDS.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
I
In
guess
case you want to shoot yourself in the face.
No, I remember that. It was it was like a
right
nozzle.
angle.
Yeah, you could like squirt like haha, like I
So-
pointed at you,
so-
but really I shoot it at
So
little
if you're
sis
in
or
a
something.
if you're in a Jurassic Park situation where you have the Velociraptor staring you head on,
Clever girl.
yeah, and she's got the other two Velociraptors coming
Yeah.
at you from the side.
If you're in a classic clever girl situation, but you have your Super Soaker MDS,
MDS,
you can get out of that alive.
you just hit those
You just
dinosaurs
hit
right
them
in the eyes,
right in the nose.
They're like squawk, my eyes.
They're birds.
Well,
That's
they
why
are.
they're squawking.
It wasn't
Yeah.
an asteroid. They
I
turned
know.
into birds.
I know. They all morphed into birds, and now they fly in our skies. Where we shoot them with Super Soakers.
So according to that's exactly how the dinosaurs went extinct.
Yeah. They turned into birds, and we shot them with Super Soakers. And now they're gone.
I was hitting them with my foot bag as they
we
floated,
know, Jack.
as they.
I actually think all of this is going to be in Jurassic World 2.
Is that what they're going to call it? Jurassic World 2? Because
Probably.
isn't it? It's Jurassic Park 4.
They should call it Jurassic Universe.
I feel like if they were to call it Jurassic Park 5, I feel like there are sequels to movies where they go back to the original title. I can't.
Well,
kind
they've
of like Alien 3. It's not Aliens 2.
Right. Well, we're getting off topic from Super Soakers.
What
I'm
else
sure
is new?
Jurassic Park will come up at some point on this podcast.
Yeah.
But you had Jurassic Park. You had The Lost World, Jurassic Park, I think. Or maybe it was just...
Jurassic Park: The Lost World, or The Lost World.
may have just
maybe it
been
was
The
The
Lost
Lost World.
World.
Jurassic Park.
Yeah, and then you had Jurassic Park 3.
Yeah.
And then it's Jurassic World. So they are all over the place with their sequels
So
already.
what do you think? I don't think they would call it Jurassic World 2. Actually, it seems like with big movies, for whatever reason, the numeric title is falling out of favor. Like
It
the
is.
campier movies, like the Fast and Furious movies, they're fine with it, which God
Right.
bless them.
Most of the Marvel
but all the
movies-
Marvel movies seem to be
Yeah.
dropping it.
Iron Man kept it.
I love that, and I love that Iron Man kept it, especially at the end of Iron Man 3. They spell out Iron Man 3 in all letters, numeric, like THREE.
Yeah.
I love that. But besides that, they all do. Oh, well, Guardians of the Galaxy is also embracing it.
They're
calling
going
it
to do
Volume
Volume 2
Yeah.
because of the whole mix
And I like
CD
that.
type thing.
But in general, they do seem to be losing the numeric title in the sequel.
Right.
Right?
Because I think once you're on like episode 6, like people tune out a little bit.
I'm also thinking maybe it's
like Rocky 6. Wasn't even Rocky 6. It was
It's
Rocky
Rocky
Balboa.
Balboa. Yeah. Well, that was because he didn't want it to. He wanted it to seem like a an indie drama and not a entry in a 80s franchise.
Yes.
Whereas I
think that's what Thor: The Dark World was going for. Also, they wanted it to be an indie drama about a man who is actually a god from
about
Asgard.
two brothers who just can't get along.
Just they're brothers. That's how it happens.
I think one of the reasons they're doing it is they're already anticipating that at some point they're going to do another reboot.
Probably.
Because
You're
Marvel
probably
says
right.
they're going to keep making movies. Eventually, either the Avengers universe will have to run out, even if it does go on for another dozen movies after the main characters leave.
Right.
You do 3 Strange movies, you do 3 Captain Marvel.
I think
But
they'll probably
eventually you'll
cycle
have
out
to-
of characters.
You'll have to eventually recast Thor with a younger actor.
Right. Eventually, yeah.
And by not having numbers, by just always having it have a literal title, you don't have to worry about them kind of bumping into each other. Basically, like the James Bond movies, you don't call it James Bond 14 because then you don't have to worry about a Daniel Craig one. Oh, do we call it James Bond 1? Do we call it? They're just all.
I actually think Spectre would have been greatly improved if they had called it James Bond XP75, brought to you by Super Soaker.
MDS.
MDS.
Multi-directional
Well,
Bond.
he shoots Christoph Waltz with that multi-directional shooter.
Spoilers.
Oh, sorry, guys.
Actually,
Spoilers. I like that. Jack waved his arms like he was doing the wave.
that's the
spoilers.
universal
The
sign
universal
language for
spoilers.
spoilers.
Yep.
Actually, I just watched Spectre last night of all things. Again, I watched it in the theater. I wanted to see if I'm a huge James Bond fan.
I'm
and I
not
wanted
that
to
big of a
see
Bond guy.
if I liked it more the second time around because I was pretty disappointed with it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, everything I didn't like about it still was
Still no good.
problematic. But the things I did like about it, I actually like more in it. Anyway, there's a scene where Mr. Hinks, the big villain, the big
Batista.
henchman, Batista,
Yeah.
he has a double-barreled handgun. And that's
Okay.
funny because Christoph Waltz, who's his inspector,
Yeah.
he has a double-barreled handgun in the Green Hornet, which is an MDS handgun. It's a double barrel, and the two
right.
barrels like separate so they can shoot at two different angles.
You mean when he played Bludnitsky in The Green Hornet?
Exactly. And he used a super soaker with bullets.
I skipped class in law school to go see The Green Hornet alone.
It was a Michel Gondry film. I was very excited.
I was very disappointed with The Green Hornet.
It could have been
anyway.
better. I think it's a little underrated because everybody's expectations were so high. It's not that bad.
It's not that bad, but it was a missed opportunity.
Exactly.
It's interesting that we're talking about movie sequels and movie franchises because it actually kind of makes sense with what we were talking about with Super Soakers, where they kept getting bigger and more ridiculous, which is exactly what happens with
the Super
movies.
Soaker with the jetpack was the Furious 7.
That was the Furious 7 of Super
Soakers.
It's kind of awesome, but really it's like a little too much. It's a little much.
Like Jason Statham. Really?
Like this used to be just a nice
Jason Statham in your water basin.
This was a nice Point Break ripoff with cars, and now you've thrown in jetpacks and The Rock, and Jason Statham's there.
I like how I stopped using the Super Soaker, at a certain age, and or maybe I just held on to.
I've used it every morning
to use it as a floss water pick.
Yep, as a water pick. Absolutely,
just pumping.
It's the best.
Don't come in here.
That's what I'm doing. I'm super soaking.
Just tell the wife that.
Just so I tell
just super
my
soaking
wife,
your teeth.
My
not
cats.
Masturbating to not her.
Hey now, can't edit this out, huh?
So I'm looking and so the years I stopped following the Super Soakers, it's funny how ridiculous they start getting. So like 98, you have the double bottle blaster, the Super Soaker 10th year anniversary edition.
Nice.
Then you have the Super Soaker CPS 1000, the Super Soaker CPS 1500, the Super Soaker CPS 2500, and
is that
3500.
All? Oh, there's the 3500 too.
I do remember this one, the pool pumper blaster, which is a great idea where it just has an open-ended tube.
Right, and you use it in a swimming pool, right?
If you're in the pool or in the ocean.
So you don't need a basin.
Continuous
you're
source.
in the basin.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, that is a good idea.
So it looks like it kept going. God, wow, it does keep going. 2006, you have the Arctic Shock. What is that? Where you just give people cold water and give them frostbite?
It's just a bag that you fill with ice. You just throw it at somebody. You're like, Arctic Shock, motherfucker.
You just give them pneumonia.
Yeah. It's a syringe, and you just stab them, and you give them pneumonia.
Well, this is part of the Max Infusion series, whatever the hell that means. There's also the Super Soaker Ozonator.
So it really is like an action movie franchise, where it's just like, wait, pay attention to us. We have Max Infusion now.
The Super Soaker Hydro Blitz, which takes the Greek root hydro for water and the German root blitz to mean. So basically, it means water gun. From the Aqua Shock series. Super Soaker Sneak Attack, which, again, any Super Soaker, if you shoot somebody in the back of the head, is a sneak attack.
That's true. It seems like Super Soaker persisted for a long time.
In 2009, it's the Super Soaker 20th
anniversary edition.
So do you think somebody just collects the Super Soakers and has all the anniversary editions?
There must be like hardcore Super Soaker guys out there, and maybe gals, but probably guys.
And we haven't said this, but this guy who made this website, looks like it's like a fan-made website, iSoaker.com. Check it out. There is a evolutionary tree that he made of the Super Soakers through the years, and it looks like one of those crazy.
It looks like the opening of Homeland.
It does. It looks like the opening of Homeland with
All
Super
it's missing
Soakers.
is a crying. What's her face?
Claire Danes.
Claire Danes. There you go.
Well, if you shoot her in the eyes,
she'll be.
and then he also leaves you with some closing thoughts on the end. So and also related articles pre-Super Soaker history, which is pretty much which is all history before 1990.
Most people don't compare their history as pre and post Super Soaker, but this guy does.
God bless him. No, this is a great website. I'm glad we found it.
I like the tagline of the website is "Leave no one dry." And also, I remember one of the tag of Super Soaker back when it came out was "Wetter is better."
Oh,
that's weird. That's an odd tagline.
It makes sense.
I guess it makes
sense. And so
kids love rhyming. That's true.
They also. Do you remember this in Boston? And it might have been a rash of attacks, but I know there was one specific one that made headlines. Basically, there was always these news headlines where whatever your kids like is terrible, and you should be concerned. The Power Rangers.
Those continue to this day.
All those things. The adults just
throwing bags of ice and pneumonia at people.
And the Super Soakers came under fire because kids were filling them up with bleach, and like a pregnant lady got shot in the face and their eyes with bleach. Yeah.
What?
And then apparently somebody. This happens with any.
Is this kids or mental patients who are on the loose from the asylum?
It was Mike Myers.
It was
he switched from knife to Super Soaker filled with bleach. The pregnant woman was Jamie Lee Curtis.
Of course. That makes so much sense now.
It was actually why it was called Halloween H2O.
That was brilliant. That was good move on their part.
Yeah, I mean it's a double entendre. It's H2O because it's water, but it's also
Right.
the 50. He's using the Super Soaker 50
The
20th anniversary
edition, of course. Well done.
Great movie.
Yeah.
It's also in that running theme of LL Cool J movies where LL Cool J gets hurt but lives miraculously through the end.
That was also big in the 90s.
Yeah, so they were all these crimes. There was also somebody got shot and killed by a real gun because the other person thought he was, I mean, that
Thought it
happens
was a
with
Super Soaker?
I guess he shot a guy with a Super Soaker, and the guy used a real gun back on him. I
Okay.
mean, that happens with
That sort of
all
makes
toy
sense.
guns, or not all
Well,
toy
but that's
guns.
not-
That's a toy gun issue. That's not a Super Soaker issue.
I don't think it's a toy gun issue. I think that's someone sprayed the wrong person with water, and that person fucking shot them, which is terrible and horrible.
Yeah.
I don't think that happens with every gun.
Yeah, but it's not Super Soaker specific.
No, but the bleach
whereas
thing-
filling it up with bleach, I can see how that could be.
How do you even get that idea? That is
I mean,
messed
there
up.
are kids who just either they don't think ahead.
look.
They're awful.
We've all been in a Super Soaker water gun fight where there's someone you don't like, and maybe you do a little pee-pee in your Super Soaker, and you spray a little pee-pee water
I've
at
never
them.
heard of a PP in a Super Soaker, but
You've
that
never
sounds
heard pee-pee in a Super Soaker?
no. But that to me is as stupid, if not as dangerous as bleach. But
But that's because you never had the XPP edition.
I was also never in a frat like you.
I wa-
I feel like whatever you're talking about, you probably learned in your frat.
I did not, and I should say I never actually sprayed anyone with pee, and I would never do that. But I did hear of people doing things like that.
All right.
This is why I never partook in any Super Soaker fights. I would just sit in my backyard.
You were
target
afraid
practice.
just one of those guns had pee in it.
You never know. Pee, bleach,
Whatever.
H3O.
That's the worst.
That's the worst.
That extra hydrogen atom just gets you right in the eye.
That's me being burned by an extra hydrogen atom.
It is terrible that they hit a pregnant woman in the face.
Yeah,
with
no,
bleach,
that's horrible. There's
but
nothing funny
I
about
have a
that.
story that is somewhat similar.
Wow, okay.
It wasn't the same birthday party, but a couple years later, there was a birthday party
Where the popular kid from your
It
school
was the
got
same,
someone pregnant.
It was the same yard. We were having a water balloon fight. I remember my mom bought these awesome water balloons that when you blew them up, they looked like hand grenades. They
Oh
were-
yeah, I remember those. Those are big.
and we thought it would be funny, or actually, there's a friend of ours from school who we've mentioned on a previous episode, but we had to bleep out his name.
Okay,
I'll
we
just
don't- we
say
don't-
his name now.
No, wait, we won't do that.
It's
You're making more work for yourself.
and he threw a water balloon over the
Yeah.
fence. And we were hit, and we thought it was funny. We could hear neighbors on the other side of the fence, and
Right.
apparently the woman she called the cops, and the cops came to the front door and talked to my dad. My dad's like, "Were you throwing water balloons over the fence?"
Yeah.
Turns out she was pregnant. We
Right.
thought we hit her, but I have a feeling she was just like, "Oh, these obnoxious kids, they could hit me. I'm pregnant."
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
how
yeah.
pregnant women get all like, "Ooh, I have a life inside me." To try
you know
to
how pregnant women get, always being like, I gotta protect this baby. Us men,
God.
we know what it's like to be a pregnant woman, right? Am I right?
Yeah,
Right,
she's
folks?
nagging for two.
Yeah,
if you
that's
ask
right.
me.
Oh, bro.
Pregnant women. Who
Pregnant
needs them?
women are the worst. Anyway, that's it for Super Soakers, maybe? I don't know. Are we done here?
Yeah, so yeah, we hit it pretty late. Yeah, let's move on. What's our
All right, Jack, let's
Next
do our next
topic?
which is going to be boy bands. And it comes to us from Eric.
Oh wow,
Eric wants to hear us talk about boy bands. Okay.
Check out our Sync Points commentary series if you want to hear more about NSYNC.
Sort of.
I mean, it's really has nothing to do with that. We just are in sync with the movie commentary.
Correct.
But
Yes, and our theme is boy band-esque. But yeah, let's talk about boy bands. So
that's generic. I really don't know. I
Let's-
can't go too deep with it.
okay, let's just name the major boy bands.
All right, let's do Family Feud style. What would be the number one answer?
the number one answer. I gotta go Backstreet Boys. I think would be the number one.
Okay, they were the first of the late '90s one,
Right.
But
Were you
I
thinking
feel like
NKOTB?
I was thinking NSYNC.
NSYNC
was
number one.
bigger than Backstreet Boys
See, I always thought Backstreet Boys was the bigger group over in Sync.
because they came first.
Well, Backstreet's back.
I mean,
all right.
I mean, think about cultural relevance. Justin Timberlake, huge star. None of them really.
Right. But
NSYNC
That's
didn't
not the
have
same
to
as
team
NSYNC.
up with New Kids on the Block as 40-year-olds to
Right.
to bring in the tickets.
I would say New Kids on the Block was the
That-
first.
I wouldn't
at
say
least
that's
in
the
the
number one
90s
answer,
boy
but
band.
they are the godfather of
Right.
boy bands.
Maybe Menudo is probably the first real boy band.
I was going to say they're kind of the Donnie Wahlberg of boy bands, but that doesn't really work because Donnie
Right.
Wahlberg
Was-
is in the
yeah,
band.
he's in there.
Star of Blue Bloods.
That's right.
So I would say, all right, so we can at least agree the first three would be NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, and then a cultural homage, a historic homage to the ancients of New Kids on the Block.
Right, back in 91 or so.
Yeah, God, 1998, it was when Backstreet Boys and NSYNC were becoming big. They were the old people. They were probably our age or younger at that point.
They were much younger than we are, sir.
I'm talking about the New Kids on the Block in the late 90s.
Oh, New Kids on the Block were probably our age, yeah.
Yeah, in the late 90s.
And they were
the old men.
men.
Yeah, that's depressing.
Yeah, well, that's why our boy band never took off, Jack.
But let's talk
we started it last year.
But let's talk about the B boy bands.
Okay, so you got Backstreet?
the BYOBBs. So after Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, you
almost said Blackstreet, which was a boy band. Or, I don't know if they were a boy band, but there was a group called Blackstreet.
That's the other thing. Boy band is such a generic term. It's come to mean the late 90s, NSYNC and Backstreet Boys.
Right.
But again, New Kids on the Block did it earlier. You did have the R&B boy bands like Motown Philly, Boyz II Men. I guess that is a boys. That's a Boyz II Men band.
They were a Boyz II Men band, yeah. But yeah, it's interesting that we call them boy band when they were probably in their 20s. Like Hanson, that's a boy band.
There were some teenagers.
That's a band filled with boys.
One Direction, they started out as teenagers.
One Direction's a boy band.
It's funny how it comes and goes because there was that.
I think it's just people like alliteration, like we said with the Super Soakers. Like it's not like adolescent band doesn't have the same ring.
Anyway, I would say the number 3 of the late 90s era would be 98 Degrees. That was like the one that it wasn't quite A-list, or if it was either low level A-list or top of the B-list.
Nick Lachey thinks that they were the A-ist of the A-list, but
obviously problem with the name.
He's the only one I can think of.
What is 98 degrees? What does that mean?
I don't know.
Are they referencing the body temperature, which is 98.6, and you round it down for some reason?
I guess
99 degrees to me it sounds more of a band name.
I guess it's because like you're supposed to think that they're hot, like they're 98 degrees,
but they're cooler than your body temperature.
They're cooler than your body temperature. Maybe that's what it is. They're cooler than your body temperature.
0.6 degrees cooler.
Yeah.
Than Backstreet Boys and NSYNC.
Could be.
I would say they were big. LFO. That's one, right?
No,
they were the one that had Chinese food make me sick.
Yeah.
And that's the only line I remember.
Backstreet Boys had a New Kids on the Block had a bunch of hits. Chinese food makes me sick.
Yeah. Oh, so they were
were they a boy band though? I don't know if
or
I would
were they
count
like
them as
a
a
pop
boy
punk
band.
band?
They were they wouldn't be pop punk. They were just
they're
pure
in that
pop.
same. What was the group that did Hey Leonardo?
Blessed Union of Souls.
Now, would you consider that a boy band
Definitely
or a band?
not.
Band?
That's a band that just did pop music in the late 90s. Yeah. But no, I don't know about LFO, but excuse me. We also have Five. You remember them? But they spelled it the number 5 IVE.
Oh, vaguely.
I couldn't tell you a song.
I don't know if
or
I'm
anyone
thinking
in the
of
band.
that or if I'm just thinking of Five Alive, the citrus juice.
Five Alive, which all boy bands drank by contract. They had a very lucrative deal with Five Alive. But no,
that would be really funny if the rival bands had rival endorsements. So like Backstreet Boys has Coke and NSYNC has Pepsi. Yeah. Backstreet Boys has Sunny D and NSYNC has Five Alive.
One of them has Mellow Yellow, one has Mountain Dew. But there were so many boy bands that we're young men. When the boy band craze was happening, we were in high school age and certainly not listening to boy band music. There's definitely boy bands that we have no idea that they existed and they were popular to someone. Like O-Town is one that I know.
Oh, I know the name. I always thought that was weird because O-Town is the name of the town in Rocko's Modern Life.
I always thought the same
thing. I just thought I don't think that's why it's called that, but I was just like, why would it is? Is it?
I think it is. I think they got their start.
All right, let's look it up
on Rocko's Modern Life.
Let's look it up on the big board. This is one of the flaws with our random topics system that we have.
Right.
I think it's better than picking topics ahead of time for multiple. That's why we're doing it. But I feel like it would be best to do this topic with a girl of our age.
Nope. I think it's two men who've never listened to boy band music.
I would bet you that girls who would be more likely to listen to this type of music than boys would have a better sense of the deeper cuts. They would probably be.
They would.
They'd have those posters on their walls.
Right. I'm trying to think of other boy bands that my wife has told me about.
Yeah, she's big into them, right? Or was?
Oh, she loves One Direction now,
and she's a 30-year-old
and she's an old lady.
It's weird.
Sorry, wife.
It's weird. I'm sorry. It's like having those like weird middle-aged women at Justin Bieber concerts.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, that's weird and gross.
No, it is weird and gross.
I mean, it's not pedophilia, but it is.
It's not so far removed. But Jack, let's do some real talk right now.
You want to get real?
Let's get real. Let's get really real on this podcast.
Okay.
Guilty pleasure boy band songs. I know you got at least one on your iPod or whatever you're listening to your music on.
What's great?
What's the one? What's your song?
What's great is
What's your boy band jam?
Now that we're so far removed from that era, 98, 99, I can openly embrace pop music and not even call it a guilty pleasure. I can, especially the well-crafted pop songs. So I would say the well-crafted pop songs, a lot of the NSYNC songs, like Bye 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 is just a great pop song.
That's a good song.
Britney Spears, like Baby One More Time, that's a great pop song.
Right.
There are shit songs that I would consider guilty pleasures, like Hoku's Another Blonde. So
I don't even know what that is.
I'm just another dumb blonde. It was the what was that Chevy Chase snow movie where everybody was snowed in?
I have no idea.
It was the theme song to that. So a guilty pleasure boy band.
Yeah, just boy bands. What's your pleasure?
Right.
You seem like an NSYNC guy. I'm gonna guess it's Bye Bye Bye. Maybe pop. Are you a pop guy?
I hated Bye 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 until very recently. Like it's when I started listening to it on retro 90s Pandora stations and stuff like that. I got back into it. My big NSYNC song was it was a video and they were puppets and they were breaking. It's gonna be
Bye
me.
Bye Bye. It was the puppet one, like bye bye bye
No,
bye.
wasn't there one where they were
dance.
like in giant toy boxes and they had to break out?
Somewhere my wife is like, "What is my husband talking about right now?"
I think it's gonna be
very
me.
interested.
I like pop, pop.
I hate
pop,
that
pop,
song.
pop,
No,
pop,
you're
pop.
wrong. That's a terrible song.
I hate it now. I liked it at the time. Bye Bye Bye. I now definitely like the most. Then I would say my favorite might be Larger Than Life, but Backstreet Boys. I think that's my favorite boy band song. God, there's too many B's.
There's too many B's. That's a decent choice, but the correct answer is Backstreet's Back. Everybody.
I do like that one a lot.
That's a jam.
I do like that one a lot.
I always like that song.
Yeah.
I still like that song.
But I think I like...
That gets the party started.
I think I Want It That Way and Larger Than Life, I like both better than that song.
It pains me when you're wrong, Jack, but in this case, you are.
Oh, so here, I'm looking up O-Town. O-Town was created in making the band.
Yes, that I did know. I don't know why they're called O-Town,
interesting.
though. Oh, because they were from Orlando.
That's what I was going to say. I
think that's what it is.
Yeah. So, the band was named after Orlando. So it's not named after Rocco's Modern Life. It should be.
It should be. None of the band members came from Orlando, yet they named the band O-Town.
All their grandmas retired there.
That's right.
I would say those Backstreet Boys songs I really like. I can't name one 98 Degree song. I really don't. The deeper cut ones, unless you consider LFO's Chinese food song.
Right. I don't know that LFO would be considered a boy band, but I can't name any songs by any boy band that's not Backstreet Boys or NSYNC, except for The Right Stuff by New Kids on the Block.
I was going to say New Kids on the Block, if I heard a song, I would recognize it, but yeah, that's right. I had no knowledge of them until I was in my 20s. Even though I had for some reason New Kids on the Block trading cards as a kid. I don't know if they were my sisters, but she was too young for them.
Did I have New Kids on the Block trading cards? Because I'm sort of remembering having them.
I certainly had them. They were everywhere. I might have had a New Kids on the Block lunchbox now that I think about it.
And you're telling me like, oh yeah, I was 20 when I first heard about New Kids on the Block.
Well, this was like when I was. They were big when we were 4 or 5. This was like when my mom was handpicking my lunch. Do you remember what lunchboxes you had?
I never had a lunchbox in my entire life.
You were paper bag. You were so cool.
No, we had lunch at school.
Ooh, they gave you food. All right, I can name
Pizza Friday.
I think I had a Garfield and Friends lunchbox.
Okay.
I definitely had a Dinosaurs lunchbox. The Jim Henson puppet sitcom. I had that. And then in 4th grade, I had a very advanced one that I picked out.
Okay.
It was a New York Jets lunchbox that was. It almost looked like the jetpack from the Super Soaker thing. It was compartmentalized. So it was It had a thermos shape on the left. It had a circle disc in the corner that you could put like a ring ding in, and then it had like a compartment for your sandwich. And I put my food in. I organized it in this like thing. It was huge, and it had a strap so that you could hang it like a side,
like a messenger
bag.
Yeah.
And
so you had a purse when you were a kid.
And 4th grade, I was one of 1 or 2 kids that still had a lunchbox. Everybody had graduated to paper bags by then.
Yeah.
I was
mercifully mocked, I'm sure. Yeah.
Bullied mercilessly. It was horrible. I remember at one point we got to play basketball, and I was afraid of losing it, so I kept it hanging from my neck while I was taking jump shots, and it kept hitting me in the face.
Oh no!
This
pains me as your friend now.
It was bad.
Yeah.
Apparently it was not cool to have a lunchbox by 4th grade.
Did you intentionally pick a Jets lunchbox because you were like, sports, this will make everyone think I'm cool?
That might have been part of it. It was definitely also because green is my favorite color, and I picked that. I remember I picked it over a Giants one, and I'm a Giants fan.
Okay.
I like the Jets, but I'm definitely primarily a Giants fan.
Right.
But I think I picked it because I liked green.
That makes sense. And you carried a lot of ring dings with you.
I do think that part of it was they can't make fun of me if it's a football team lunchbox.
Yeah, right.
It was
they find ways. They're very cruel.
I also remember this. I don't know when I'll ever be able to tell the story, so I might as well tell it now.
All right.
I was so excited. My mom bought Doritos, nacho cheese Doritos, and I never got Doritos. I always got like Wise potato chips.
Okay.
I was so excited, and then these two girls were like, "Can we? Oh, Doritos! Can we have one?" I was like, "No," and they took them away from me. And or maybe I was having trouble opening it, and they took it away. They're like, "No, we'll show you a trick," and they pop it open.
Yeah.
And it popped, and they all just spilled out of the bottom onto the floor, and I was so heartbroken.
Do you want to buy some Doritos now,
I think
Jack?
I'm going to actually have to go and eat some Doritos after this I've been dieting for a week, like a no junk food diet.
Yeah.
And now I really want some fucking Doritos.
Wow. I think Doritos was actually a sponsor of Backstreet Boys, and NSYNC was sponsored by Wise Potato Chips. So
I would not consider those two direct opposites. To me, Wise potato chips were always old people potato chips because they didn't have flavors, or at least in my house they didn't.
Flavors.
In my house they didn't, and my mom always ate them. She loved them. It was a green bag of Wise potato chips.
Yeah, with
so to
with
me,
an owl
they were
was
considered
the mascot.
like those were like the not fun ones. Those were for adults.
Whereas Doritos were extreme to the max.
Exactly.
You could eat Doritos with your Super Soaker while listening to your Backstreet Boys.
Just don't eat the nacho cheese melted Dorito mozzarella sticks from Burger King.
No,
we had a guest
kill
on
you.
our Simpsons podcast eat them right before we recorded,
Yes,
and he almost died.
He was half dead by the end of the show. Oh boy.
I'm sure we could talk a lot more about boy bands.
Yeah, I feel like boy bands is very broad, and we kind of hit the highlights. But maybe specific boy bands will come up in later episodes.
I'm sure
we can talk a little bit more about go a little deep dive.
Maybe we'll be lucky and we'll have a guest on the show who can give us some more insight to them. But in the meantime, we've got 19 minutes, 45 seconds left on the clock.
Okay.
Can we get a third topic?
We certainly can get a third topic. And the third topic is being worried about acid rain and the hole in the ozone layer.
All right. So environmentalism and global warming and all that was definitely around.
That was from Jonathan, by the way. Sorry.
Thank you, Jonathan. That was definitely around in the early 90s. I mean, you had Captain Planet and everything. It was a different type of environmentalism. Now it's more focused on climate change and the oceans rising by a few degrees, losing glacier ice. Ozone layer was big because there was a big hole in the ozone layer that I think once we crack down on aerosols and shit, it's more or less gotten fixed, or at least it's a lot better now.
I'm fairly certain that it has healed itself. It's one of those things that it was replenishable, and we just needed to cut the shit with all the chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs.
There you go.
There
you go. But acid rain's not a big deal anymore because we've moved all our industry to China and poor
now they
nations.
have acid
now
rain.
They have acid rain, and we're living it up.
And we're making podcasts and talking about super soakers all day. But one thing I want to point out about the ozone layer, and it's we were just talking about O-Town before. There was a Rocco's Modern Life episode about environmentalism.
The O-Town ozone?
The O-Town ozone layer. And I have that episode has always stuck with me. I was a big fan of Rocco's Modern Life as a kid, and I feel like anything that I do that has any sort of bent for environmentalism is because of that episode. I can't remember the actual plot of the episode. I think it had something to do with Conglommo was polluting something, and there was a grim recycler. I remember this. And they sang a song. It was RECYCLE recycle, CONSERVE conserve. Don't you POLLUTE pollute the river, sky, or sea, or else you're going to get what you deserve.
Wow, you remember all the words.
Yeah. No,
who's singing this? Because Rocco doesn't
This
sing.
was the entire town of O-Town, except for Rocco, who hated that everyone kept singing and didn't understand. And they were like, did everyone get together and rehearse?
I don't remember much about Rocco's Modern Life. I definitely really liked it.
Oh, it's such a good show.
I was never big into SpongeBob because I was a little too old for it, and I always saw it as like a watered down Rocco. But
it
was Rocco a right wing like conservative?
Oh, no. He was an Australian wallaby having
who didn't believe in climate change.
He did not believe in climate change.
He was against selling aborted fetuses for
that went a bit beyond the scope of the show.
You don't remember
I
the
don't
abortion
remember that episode. No, I think that one might have been
they sing a
removed
song
from syndication.
They all sing a song. It's like ABORTION.
Abortion. No, I don't remember that episode. But Rocco's Modern Life is a great show, and this is relevant because this is a 90s podcast. Did you hear about the Nicktoons movie that they're doing?
Oh, it's going to be like an Avengers style where they're combining.
So weird. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
I only read the headline. I didn't read the article.
They're combining all of the 90s Nicktoons into an Avengers style movie.
Oh, so it's
movie.
a 90s Nicktoons. That's why I had no interest. I thought it would be all ones I don't remember.
Oh, no.
Like Phineas and Ferb.
It's for people like us. That's not a Nicktoon.
Disney.
That's on Disney.
Yeah, I know, but I don't know any characters post Doug.
SpongeBob. Well, Doug, I don't know if Doug will be
SpongeBob.
in there because Doug was eventually bought by Disney.
By Disney, that's right.
We'll talk
that
about-
would be a bummer if Doug's not in there. He should be, but I guess he's not.
Doug will be a whole other
Doug
episode. We
doesn't
can
quite
talk
fit
60 minutes
their
about Doug.
ugly, sloppy animation style. I guess
Right.
Real Monsters, Hey Arnold.
That'll all be in there. I don't know about Hey Arnold. Real Monsters, Rocco, Ren and Stimpy, Rugrats, I think,
Hey
is all
Arnold
going to be
should
part
be
of
in
this.
there.
Cat Dog.
Cat Dog.
That's one.
Angry Beavers. Was that Nick?
Was
that
the
Nick?
theme song? Yeah, it was. I like Angry Beavers too. But
That's interesting. I love Real Monsters.
I don't know who that movie's for. I guess it's for us. We're talking about it.
Is it just going to be a bunch of sad 30-year-old men in the movie
Probably.
theater?
Because do kids care about Rocco's Modern Life? I'm assuming
Well,
not.
here's the thing. Not right now.
Yeah.
But it's all marketing, and if they want to, they'll make the kids like it. For instance,
guess you're right on that.
Ninja Turtles, we were really into. And then
Yeah.
and then I remember asking like a little kid when I was like 15 and then I was like babysitting or playing with like a neighborhood 6-year-old. It's like, you like Ninja Turtles? And they're like, who? What? And then
Right.
they came back. They came back in a few waves. But then after the Michael Bay produced movie from a year ago or so, a couple years ago, and the new one's coming out soon,
Yeah.
suddenly it exploded again, huge, with toys. And like the young kids today love Ninja Turtles in a way that we did. You
Yeah.
know, it's not the same turtles. It's the CGI turtles and the live action turtles. But pretty much, yeah, you had some parents with nostalgia. That's kind of why they did it. They're like, oh, the parents will go see it and they'll bring their kids. But it was basically they just kind of decide what kids are going to like and they
Right, so
shove it down your throats in the toy store.
the fact that there was a Turtles movie and they put out a new Turtles show, that's what makes people care, is that it's out there
Exactly.
and they're pushing
it gives
it in
them
your
an
face.
excuse to throw the merchandise down every goddamn toy store aisle. So
Yeah.
I could see them when this Nicktoons movie comes out, if it comes about, where they're just going to fill all the toy stores with Nicktoons merchandise. Whatever kids are watching right now during kids programming, they'll just have tons of commercials for Nicktoons toys and stuff.
I guess, yeah.
I mean, I wonder if that's as effective as it was in our generation because maybe kids don't watch as much TV because their parents are
They're too busy
cord-cutters.
Snapchatting.
I mean, they might be just streaming kid shows
they're
now.
periscoping.
Yeah, they're periscoping.
They're periscoping each other's Snapchats.
But
It's wild.
But seriously, I honestly don't. I don't know if they watch TV with commercials.
No, I have no. I
So
don't
maybe
think they do.
maybe they lost the toy companies. That was their biggest weapon. That was their Super Soca MDS
Yeah.
XP 6000.
It was.
By having toy commercials.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like they're just going to, if they want to make a Nicktoons movie, they will shove Nicktoons down you. The reason I believe this is also, I guess this is again another nostalgic thing, but Alvin and the Chipmunks is huge with kids now, little kids, because of those awful CGI
right.
movies.
I think it's lost its luster now after
But
the fourth one or whatever it was that just came out.
But the kids don't mind. The kids don't think, oh God, they jumped the shark. Kids don't think
Well,
that.
but that's like I feel like Alvin and the Chipmunks was and always has been like something you just watched because it was there. Like I watched Alvin and the Chipmunks all the time as a kid in the late 80s series that they had.
because it was syndicated.
Right, it was just on.
But I didn't have Alvin and Chipmunks toys.
I didn't have Alvin and the Chipmunks toys either.
You're right.
But I feel like that's something you put on like if you're babysitting somebody and
But
you're just like, just watch
new-
this and leave me alone.
New NU with the umlaut, new
okay.
Alvin and the Chipmunks, I do think is a merchandising franchise. Like the kids
Really?
have Alvin and Chipmunks school bags and
I feel like I haven't
clothes.
seen any Alvin and the Chipmunks stuff in a long
Little
time.
kids love Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Maybe
my
like really
like
little
my
kids,
niece
yeah.
loved Alvin and the Chipmunks. Now she's
Okay.
like 12. When the first 2 or 3 came out, she was
Right,
definitely
right.
obsessed. The new one just came out. I know.
Yeah, the road chip.
Oh boy.
That's the title so bad it almost put a hole in the ozone layer, which is our topic, sort of. I actually want to talk a little bit about acid rain.
Sure.
Because I feel like in the 90s, acid rain was made out to be a much larger problem than it actually... Well, maybe...
Again, we moved all the industry to China so that they
right.
could deal with it.
Maybe acid rain is just no longer a problem, but it seemed like when I was a child, it was like, oh my God, I was living in fear of acid rain like almost every day. Like every storm cloud could be the one that's acid rain.
I never really took the threat that literally. I still, to this day, I try not to get rain in my mouth. I feel like it's probably not healthy.
In theory, it should be the healthiest. It should be very clean water. It's
it's-
coming from the earth, from
But
the sky.
where there's lots of pollutants.
There's lots of
and
pollutions, I guess.
Carbons.
Oh man, I ate all that snow after it
Yeah,
snowed a
no,
couple
don't
weeks
eat
ago.
snow. Don't eat snow.
I
It's
did.
got to be pretty bad for you. I mean, it's like not Flint level bad, but it's got to be.
You know, now that I think about it, I actually did eat a bunch of snow after the blizzard, and then I got cold.
I told you to buy some cans of soup beforehand.
No,
I told you to
didn't.
stock up.
I just said, oh, I don't have anything. I gotta eat the snow. Jack said it's a bad idea, but I don't think he knows what he's talking about. I gotta eat that snow.
So did you go outside with a spoon? Or?
No, I just picked up a handful of snow and I said, "This is good eats," and I just shoved it into my gullet.
At least bring some fruit syrup or something
Well,
and make a snow cone.
I did make a snow cone. It was plain flavored snow cone. I just put sugar on snow. And I ate it.
Actually, doesn't sound.
It doesn't sound that bad, actually, either. Yeah.
More sugar, please.
Save that for the Men in Black podcast, which is coming soon.
When you said acid rain, a scene came to mind immediately, and to me, it's like the quintessential acid rain scene. It's from the one season wonder Earth 2. Which was an early or mid 90s show where a bunch
I never
of
watched it, but I remember
people went to a twin of Earth because Earth was so polluted, and they flew 22 light years. I'm pretty sure it was 22 light years. Don't know why I remember that. One of my favorite character actors was the lead, which was great, and the captain. His name escapes me all of a sudden, even though I love him.
One of your favorite actors.
Voice of Lex Luthor. He was in Lost.
He was in Buckaroo Banzai, and he was Kurgan in Highlander.
He's the bad guy in Pet Sematary 2.
Why am I also forgetting his name? I also love him.
I always know his Clancy Brown.
Clancy Brown,
on the tip of my tongue.
Clancy.
Anyway, it was great to see him in a good role.
I didn't know he was
a
in
lead
Earth
role.
too. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so there's a scene I think in the pilot where it starts raining and everybody freaks out and runs for cover.
Right.
And eventually one of them is like, "Wait a second, this rain's not acid," and they all party in the rain. They're like, "This is amazing." They've never had the experience of being in rain. Yeah.
See, that's what I thought life was going to be like when it was 2016. It was just going to be acid rain all the time.
Yeah, no, that was the quintessential acid rain scene for me. Although I also any environmental thing from the 90s, Captain Planet was one of my favorite shows.
Sure. Why was there such an environmental bent to the early 90s?
Because it was when
I guess it was because of the ozone layer hole, and we kind of realized we're actually destroying the planet.
Yeah,
and it's getting bad.
I'm sure you could trace its roots to the 70s, countercultural movement, 3 Mile Island. I'm sure it was snowballed. Ted Turner, Jane Fonda made Ted Turner take an initiative and create Captain Planet. Supposedly,
that makes sense.
And it's kind of stuck. I'm a big environmentalist, and I think I can owe that to my elementary school doing a good job shoving it down our throats. They made us do our arts and craft projects, and they really went out of their way to and they also at that time they also were big on AIDS prevention and on drugs. And I would say out of the three, the one that really stuck with me was I recycle now. I still hate condoms and I love drugs. So, but I do recycle.
Don't we all? 90s percentile listeners.
So at least one of the three stuck.
Yeah.
I would say it was definitely big with school children. Our parents don't give a shit. Most parents don't really
about recycling
and,
in
the
general?
basic stuff. Again, climate change is kind of advanced environmentalism. I'm talking 90s.
I don't know.
It was always big. I remember also in the pilot for Sliders, which was 93, 94.
It was about 93, yeah.
They made a joke about how he's in an alternate universe for the first time.
Same planet.
Yeah.
Different dimension.
Same Earths, right? Multiple Earths. And he's in the first one that's kind of like our world, but it's slightly different.
Right.
And on the radio, they mention global cooling. And that was so it was it was
Wouldn't
around.
that be odd?
He also
Jerry
stopped
O'Connell.
at green lights and went to red
I
lights.
remember that scene in the pilot.
It was the same scene as the global cooling.
I didn't remember the global cooling part.
Well, I did.
Well,
that's why
apparently.
That's why you have the two of us.
That's why we both host the show.
It's always been around environmentalism. Climate change is not new, which is surprising that there's still so many people who can't seem to admit it is a thing.
Right. Well, the climate is always changing. In that aspect, climate change is always around. But, it's...
I don't know. I feel like people, the right wing and Republicans being against climate change most of them are only against it because that is the right wing position. The Democrats and left wing had decided that they want to fix it, so they have to just be fundamentally opposed. They can't agree on anything. You have to pick a side.
Well, let's not get into the intricacies of what's wrong with politics in America today, but here's what's wrong with politics in America today.
Here's what's wrong with Americans. They
Damn
are
right.
the worst.
Ugh. No, but
just want to shoot them all in the face with bleach.
Going back, yikes. Going back to me eating snow, actually the same day during the big blizzard that happened in New York before, I didn't get soup or any food, and I had to go out in the blizzard to buy food.
Why didn't you not do that? What's wrong with
Because we
you?
were recording a podcast the night before.
Yes, I know. I had to go to your place, and I still managed to stock up.
It's fine. But I went out. It was totally fine to go out.
You should also keep, by the way, a week's worth of food and water in your kitchen.
We absolutely do not do that.
Of any kind of emergency.
We absolutely do not do that.
I keep it where I forget about it so that when I'm hungry, I don't just break into the emergency stash.
Right. That's smart.
Look, they expire in 2018. You can forget about them for 2 years and then just eat them all.
Then
Have
you
a
just throw
party.
them
Have a
away.
Chef Boyardee party.
I'm not going to have a party. I don't like people.
Don't come to me when there's an apocalypse and be like, Jack, can I have some of your food?
Now you told me that you're stashing food, and I know where it is.
Nope.
It's where you wouldn't expect to look for it. Where is it? Where's the food? I need it now. I'm hungry.
I'll just give you some
Where's
snow.
the bag of Doritos, Jack? Oh, you got snow? Yeah, I'll take the snow.
You open my snow bag and it all falls out on the floor.
That doesn't sound good. You open my snow bag. I don't know what that would be. Anyway.
Some kind of prolapsed anus.
Didn't we talk about prolapsed anusi on another podcast?
Anus.
I don't remember.
Wouldn't it be ani?
I don't know what it would be.
Ain't I talking about multiple
prolapsed
anuses?
anuses. This is getting far away from
I would say
Ozone.
a snow bag is a bleached prolapsed anus.
I think you're right. I think that's absolutely correct. But my point was, I was walking in the
Hashtag
snow. Prolapsed anus. Snowbags.
Snowbag porn.
Snowbag. I don't know
If
what.
X Hamster or Red Tube has a snow bag like section next week, we're definitely suing.
I don't know what those websites are.
They're porn sites that
My
you
wife
look at
listens to this.
when your wife is and you tell her you're using a super soaker.
You're right. But my point is, I was walking in the blizzard, and an old man walked past me, and he just goes, "Global warming, right?" And I just was like, haha, what? And I kept walking.
You should have stopped him and said, "Sir, actually, this is a result of the water warming in the Pacific Ocean."
Right. It's interesting when people say, like, it's cold today, meaning global warming can't be a thing. As if, like, the day when no one got murdered meant there are no murders.
I hate when people say that because there are two
It's
reasons.
specious reasoning.
There's one of two reasons. It's either specious reasoning and they're idiots, or they're just making a very old, tired joke that was funny the first time in 1995.
Right. I think this guy was probably making an old joke because he was an old man.
Right.
And I like my fair share of old man humor. Yeah. So I gave him a chuckle. I walked on my way and went home and ate my snow.
I mean, I'm glad the topic is acid rain. I said this on a previous podcast.
Yeah.
I just don't understand
self-driving cars.
Why people are so against environmentalism. Look, I get that people can argue. If the science. They're not scientists, so they don't quite understand the science behind it, and it's very easy to reduce things. So I could see people saying, look, on a long enough time scale, how do we know that this isn't how do we know this isn't man-made? How do we know that this isn't the way it's always supposed to be? It's all cycles. We've only been we've only been measuring weather for 100 years.
Right. Why the antagonism against trying to do something?
Rain is acidic and it is eating away at things. When when the capital of the most populous country in the world, you can't see anything, and people are told to not leave their homes because the air pollution is so thick. How can you be against trying to fix that?
Right. I don't know if people
Why are people against recycling? Don't they understand that eventually we're going to run? Maybe because we grew up on the world's biggest landfill, and that's not a joke.
That's true. Staten Island, New York.
Maybe people. I'm a little bit more biased, but there's no room to put the garbage. Don't people realize, the ocean's big. We could throw our garbage in there.
I feel like we can, and we have, and there's a giant floating pile of garbage in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, and fish are poisoned now.
And everything's dying. But I feel like people aren't against environmentalism, except for Captain Planet villains like Loot and Plunder and Major Blight.
I think that the.
Do you actually think people are like, no, fuck it, let's just pollute
I think they
and
are
stuff?
against it in the way that they just seemed since politics has become so polarized. I think they are just fundamentally knee jerk against it because it is a left-wing thing, in the way that they're against anything big government, anything corporate social welfare, anything anti-abortion.
There's probably an aspect to that, but I think people by and large are just lazy, and having to recycle is an extra step in dealing with their garbage.
But what about the people being against government regulation and carbon taxes and all that stuff?
I mean, that's different. You're getting into the actual politics of environmentalism.
So you're talking about small scale recycling.
Yeah,
so you're
some people are against recycling. Well. There are some valid reasons to be against recycling, but I think most people are just lazy.
Yeah, I guess that's it. But I just wish people would take the whole idea. Again, it's a very simple concept. Yes, your life won't be miserable. There's a very good chance your grandkids' life will be miserable.
Yeah,
that's true. Put the aluminum can in a separate blue trash can. It's not hard.
So if we were doing the 90s percentile, everything would be very dark. We wouldn't be able to see. There'd be acid rain everywhere.
I'd be dead because you and the rest of the internet had raided my stash of
That's exactly right.
Food.
We know where it is, everybody. Join me, and we will lead the march on Jack's stash. When the acid rain comes, you'll be first against the wall, Picone.
It's only like a dozen cans of Progresso.
Well, I want all of them. I love Progresso. What kind of Progresso you got? You got minestrone?
I got a mix.
You got a minestrone?
I got several cans
Of
of
course, you got
minestrone.
minestrone.
I also got some Chef Boyardee, which is disgusting, but I was like,
Yeah, I'm not a
I
big
feel
fan
like
of the-
I don't want soup. I feel like I'd like to mix it up.
Right.
Actually, I bought some Amy's organic chili,
Oh,
and it
okay.
expires in 2018. So
All
I
right.
put it in with the latest expiring stuff, and I put it in my emergency stash.
Sure.
And then I was like, oh man, I really want that chili right now. And I looked at the stuff that's expiring first. I put that up front, and it's just
Right.
like carrots, and I'm just like,
Carrot? Like a can of carrots?
yeah. I mean, you want vegetables too. It's not just all
Okay.
soups.
Soup has vegetables?
I really want that chili now.
I really want some chili. I'm getting hungry now. Okay, so here's a list of things we're going to buy.
Let's go get some Doritos.
We're going to get some Doritos. We're going to get some chili. We're going to get some Progresso. And it's going to be delicious.
We'll just put the Progresso into a super soaker and just shoot it
Done.
into each other's mouths.
Yeah. That sounds fun, actually.
Is that
Can we
what
really do
is
that?
that a snow bag?
Yeah, we're snowbagging it,
So
bro.
it's not a bleach prolapse.
That's if you use
anus?
the Arctic Shock Super Soaker to spray Progresso
There you
into
go.
your co-podcasting partner's mouth. It's very highly specific snowbagging.
All right, so we're down to our final minute. It's too late to pick another topic.
Yeah.
Can name me another boy band song you like.
Okay, I like...
Take your time.
I do actually like a few One Direction songs. I'm trying to think of a 90s boy
I
band.
couldn't
but
name a single One Direction song.
Really?
Yeah,
Best song ever is a good song.
I've heard of it. I don't know what it is.
That's What Makes You Beautiful is a good
There's
song.
a song I really, really genuinely like called "Glad You Came" by The Wanted.
I actually like that song too.
I heard it at there was a block party outside my street, and they blasted it over and over and over, and it caught on. I was sitting on my porch. It was a beautiful day. It was just very summery. Yeah, it just felt it's a feel good song.
No, that's a pretty
But
good
One
song.
Direction,
actually.
I remember too. I said it was my favorite One Direction song while I was a barista, and like this
Yeah.
girl was like, "That's not One Direction. That's The Wanted."
People get very upset about that kind of stuff, Jack.
But
you should be warned. You should beware. And that is it for this episode of 90s Percentile. How do we close the show, Jack? By telling everyone what we learned today. So, Jack, what did you learn today?
Well, I learned what a snow bag now is. It might not have been it before, but I know now it is
we
a
know it
bleached
is.
prolapsed anus.
Yes, and now I have...
By the way, for the record, a non-bleached prolapsed anus is considered a rosebud.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is that for real?
Yes.
All right.
Because it looks like a rose. All
makes sense.
all the folds of the inside of an asshole.
All right. I'm still learning after
Isn't
the
that
podcast
isn't
is
that
over.
a Shakespeare quote?
Yeah.
Like, is a
rose-
any rose by any other prolapsed anus
Would still have folds of an asshole.
Yeah, it's Hamlet, right?
Yeah. Now, you know what? That's what I just learned. I just learned that. So that's good. That's good stuff.
You can't mooch off. You
All
can't
right.
spin off from my.
I learned that you play basketball with a Jets lunchbox around your waist and it hits you in the face.
But you didn't learn where I keep my food.
No, I didn't, but I'll find out next time on 90s Percentile.
So yeah, again, like we said at the top of the show, if you do want more content, obviously by now we've got a few episodes, and thanks for supporting us early in the run. Please leave some iTunes reviews.
Yeah, you guys are good about it,
This
but-
is the most important time to get those reviews.
Yep.
If you can leave a 5-star rating, that's great. But especially if you actually sit down and write a review. Dan had the great idea of using 90s slang to compliment us.
Yeah,
if you
go
want to call
for
us
it.
tubular,
Call us
Chevy
gnarly, bro.
Nova. Remember Supernova?
I remember. I know what you're doing. 90s movie, Ninja Turtles.
One of my all-time favorite movies.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you want to leave us 90s themed or non-90s themed good reviews, 5-star reviews on iTunes, please do. It's really helpful. Are we on Stitcher? Are we still doing that?
I didn't put this on Stitcher yet, but I will.
If we're on Stitcher, leave us a Stitcher review or two.
Yeah,
literally
and
two.
tell your friends. Tell your friends if you
Yes.
like the show and you like what you're doing. If you liked our Simpsons podcast, if you've never heard our Simpsons podcast, check it out. It's the worst
Yeah.
episode ever. But this is more open. It's our wackiness.
Yeah,
But
anybody who of our around our age who just grew up in the 90s or just happened to really like being in the 90s, even if they were 50 at the time.
Right.
This is shows for you. Let your friends know on social, on Twitter, Facebook, especially in comment sections. That's very big for us.
Yeah.
If you see a topic in another like pop culture forum that's about the 90s or something, throw us a plug. Put the link in there. It really does help. We're not above begging for
No, not
viewers.
at all. Not at all.
The more of you, the better. The more the merrier.
right, and we're at 90s Percentile on Twitter. We have a subreddit. It's our 90s Percentile. Check that out. And
check
please
out
click
out the
through-
website where you can submit topics.
Yes. Oh, submit your 90s topics. Absolutely.
We have a lot, but we throw in more.
We have tons, but we want a lot more.
throw in specific ones. If there's a topic, for instance, if you were listening to our boy band topic and you're like, oh man, I really wish they would have focused more on 98 Degrees, throw 98 Degrees in there.
98 degrees
we'll
in the
look
mix.
it up on Wikipedia. We'll figure it out.
We'll talk about Nick Lachey. Throw it in there. It's right now it's 90spercentile.wordpress.com. By the time you're hearing this, it might actually be 90spercentile.com. We'll see.
Fingers crossed.
But you go to wepodcast.com no matter what. That's weepodcast.com and click our Amazon links. That helps keep the show free. That is a big help for us. All you got to do is click the links and shop like you normally would, and that helps the show.
Yeah. And then you can also check out our Simpsons podcast there, worst episode ever, our Sync Points commentary series.
$2 a pop on Sync Points.
And of course, you can follow us at 90s Percentile. You can also follow us personally. We don't mind. I'm at Jackie No Breaks.
I'm at Then Dan Says.
So feel free to click that follow button. And I'd say that's about it. My name is Jack.
That's it. My name is Dan, and we'll see you in another decade.